cheating allegations. And you're simply put just going to get caught. Wait a second, no one ever gets caught cheating on poker streams.
Every game has a critic, but poker got something else. Doug Polk, a strategist from childhood and one of the greatest online crushers ever. He reinvented himself into a fearless commentator who exposed the industry's most uncomfortable truths. Cheating rings, crypto implosions, superstar feuds, Polk dove into every fire without hesitation. Love him or hate him, the poker world listens when he speaks. But the real question is, how did one player transform into the most dangerous critic the game has ever seen? Douglas K. Polk's story starts in sunny Pasadena, California, where he was born on December 16, 1988. As a kid, he seemed pretty normal, until strategy games entered the picture. At just 5 years old, his dad introduced him to chess, and Doug took off like a rocket. He didn't just play for fun, he trained with a grandmaster, entered tournaments, and eventually even beat the man who taught him. The kid was wired for strategy. His family later moved across the country to North Carolina, where he attended Wakefield High School. That's where his obsession shifted from chess pieces to pixels. Specifically, the real-time strategy game, Warcraft 3. Just like before, he dove headfirst into mastering the mechanics, competing in World Cyber Games tournaments, and building the mindset that later defined him. His now famous poker name, WCG Writer, actually came straight from that era. After high school, Polk tried the college route at the University of North Carolina. But while the lectures dragged on, online poker caught his attention. He deposited $20 and spent months grinding the tiniest stakes imaginable, 1 cent, 2 cents. But his strategy-focused brain clicked into gear, and before long, he worked his way up, eventually cashing out $10,000. That was all the clarity he needed. He dropped out of college and bet everything on poker. And it paid off. Within a couple of years, Doug Polk, now WCG Writer, was a name everyone in serious poker circles knew. By 2013, he'd made hundreds of thousands online, mainly by dominating the ultra-tough world of heads-up, no-limit GNL poker. He crushed so many opponents that finding willing challengers became a problem, until Ben Sauce 123 Sulsky stepped up. Their late 2013 15,000-hand marathon became legendary. Polk won, pocketing $740,000 plus a $100,000 bonus, and cemented his status as one of the greatest online heads-up players ever. But Doug wasn't just an online shark. Live tournaments became another arena he conquered, earning roughly $10 million in winnings. His crowning moment came in 2017 when he won his third WSOP bracelet, beating 130 elite players to capture a title that put him firmly in poker's upper tier. Then, despite the success, Polk surprised everyone. In 2018, right after finishing his famous $100,000 to $10,000 bankroll challenge, he announced he was stepping away from playing poker altogether. He wanted to create content, explore new topics, and move beyond to talking about pocket jacks. By March 2020, he even declared he was done with poker content entirely. But poker wasn't done with him. Summer 2020 rolls around, and suddenly he's right back in the fire. A heated clash with his longtime rival, Daniel Negreanu, blows everything wide open again. Polk throws out a challenge. Negreanu takes it, and just like that, one of the most hyped heads-up matches in poker history is on. It drags Doug Polk straight back into the spotlight and reopens a rivalry that had been simmering for years. But to really see why this match mattered so much to Doug, we've got to rewind and go back to where it all began. The spark that ignited the 6-year Polk-Negreanu rivalry hit in 2014. Doug Polk was at the height of his online dominance, spending countless hours studying the brutal world of high-stakes, no-limit hold'em. Then Daniel Negreanu made a bold claim. He could quickly learn and beat the notoriously tough $25 per $50 online 6 max games. For Polk, this wasn't just confidence. It felt like disrespect toward every grinder who lived and breathed the format. And just like that, the feud began. Negreanu mostly stayed silent in public, but Polk, he went on the offensive. On YouTube, on Twitter, anywhere with a comment section, he was firing shots. Over the years, Polk criticized Negreanu for everything from defending PokerStars after they scrapped the beloved Supernova Elite program, to suggesting higher rake was somehow good for players, to claiming he could crush high-stakes online games with minimal study. Polk, being one of poker's greatest trolls, eventually turned the rivalry into entertainment. By 2018, things got legendary. During the $300,000 Super High Roller Bowl, Polk sat beside Negreanu wearing a shirt that said, "More rake is better," mocking Negreanu's controversial stance. Poker Twitter erupted. Days later, Polk took it up another level, dropping thousands on a billboard outside the Rio during the World Series of Poker, just to troll Daniel every single day he drove in. At this point, the feud was so intense, it felt political. By 2020, their rivalry had become part comedy, part blood sport, but instead of letting it drag on forever, the two finally agreed to settle things the old-school way. A massive 25,000 hand heads-up match. Polk confidently told his fans he was backing the truck up, meaning he expected a huge win. And halfway through the challenge, after 12,500 hands, he was up nearly $800,000. Negreanu had the option to quit, but he refused. And surprisingly, he started playing some of the best poker of his life. Even Polk admitted he was impressed. Negreanu wasn't a heads-up specialist, yet he stayed competitive deep into the challenge. Early in 2021, despite being down about 20 buy-ins, he pulled off a massive $385,000 session, the biggest single win either player had in the entire match. But Polk adjusted. With a big lead to protect, he changed strategies, keeping pots small, almost like running out the clock in football. Negreanu couldn't capitalize, and Polk's win rate surged. On day 36, the final session, Negreanu started strong, jumping ahead by more than $160,000. But the momentum didn't last. A brutal turning point came when both players got all in with ace-king, usually a chop, but Polk ran out a flush to scoop the entire $90,000 pot. From there, it was all downhill for Negreanu. Polk wrapped things up with a final $255,000 win, putting the whole feud to rest once and for all. And after that, he made it crystal clear, no rematches, no fresh challengers. He was done. But the thing about Doug Polk is, even when he's not grinding cards every day, he still finds a way to stay relevant. It's not just the talent, though he definitely has that. It's the way he commands attention. From firing off spicy tweets back in the day to becoming one of YouTube's biggest poker personalities, Polk built his whole brand on being bold, loud, opinionated, and honestly, pretty entertaining. In the early years, Twitter was his playground. One minute he'd be talking poker hands, the next he'd be arguing about Warcraft or debating U.S. politics and economics like he was on CNN. Over time, though, he shifted into full-time video mode, and that's where the real chaos began. Polk controversies have practically become poker holidays. People gather, they watch, they react. He's roasted players, called out scandals, and poked fun at just about everyone in the community. And whether fans love him or hate him, one thing is certain, they always click. One of the biggest stories Polk ever dove into was the Mike Posel cheating scandal, aka Poselgate. This thing erupted in late 2019 from a single tweet and then swallowed the entire poker world for months.
Cheating allegations against Mike Posel are rapidly becoming poker's top story of 2019.
The big question everyone had was simple. If Posel was cheating, how was he doing it? The most popular theory was that he somehow got real-time hole card information from the live stream. People watched the footage back and noticed that Posel spent an unusual amount of time staring down into his lap during hands. often under his hat. It looked bad, really bad. Many suspected that someone behind the scenes at Stone's gambling hall was feeding him the information directly, and Justin Caraides quickly became the main name floating around. Caraides publicly defended Postal, dismissed players' complaints, and had direct access to the stream room, basically the perfect storm for suspicion. Even when phones were banned at the table, Postal kept winning with unbelievable consistency, which led some investigators to guess he switched to some kind of hidden device. Polk, naturally, jumped into the action. He broke down the scandal on stream with Joey Ingram, then released his now iconic series of Postal Hand videos, analyzing suspicious moments with his trademark sarcasm and clarity.
And Mike is staring into his lap. What is he looking at? What's down there?
But controversies weren't just something Polk covered. They eventually wrapped around him, too. Enter CoinFlex. In mid-2022, CoinFlex imploded. Withdrawals froze, users panicked, and suddenly Doug Polk, one of the company's loudest ambassadors, was in the hot seat. He faced accusations of shilling a failing crypto exchange, especially since he had spent months criticizing Phil Hellmuth for promoting Bitcoin Latinum, another coin tied up in ugly allegations. Polk responded the way he always does, with a detailed, cleanly structured 18-minute YouTube video. In it, he explained how everything went sideways. According to him, CoinFlex had insisted its assets were fully collateralized, but that turned out not to be true. On top of that, Polk found out about the withdrawal freeze, the same way everyday users did, through Twitter. He immediately contacted a lawyer to figure out how to exit his contract.
The reason that we're in this situation, simply put, is that CoinFlex said that these assets were collateralized, and they were not.
He emphasized over and over that he didn't run the company, didn't control the finances, and was himself about to lose money because part of his payment was in CoinFlex tokens. He laid out his due diligence process, identified what CoinFlex had misrepresented, and urged the company to publicly reveal its balance sheet and slap a massive warning on its website because people were still able to register and deposit. The video ended with Polk apologizing to his audience for any harm done, but the poker community wasn't quick to let it go, and the timing made things worse, because right around then, Hustler Casino Live co-founder Nick Vertucci accidentally set off a Twitter feud between Polk and Hellmuth. Polk had been blasting Hellmuth for wearing a Bitcoin Latinum hat everywhere, and now Hellmuth's supporters started firing back, pointing out Polk's involvement with CoinFlex. CoinFlex was trying to recover $84 million in delinquent debt. Its public reputation was dust, and Polk suddenly found himself on the defensive. Things escalated fast. Vertucci initially went after Polk, but later deleted his tweet and apologized. Polk had already fired back with a brutal reply, calling Vertucci a tool, accusing him of constantly asking for free stuff and challenging him to a heads-up match. Hellmuth eventually jumped in too, and Polk doubled down, calling coins with names like Bitcoin Anything, basically scams, and declaring that there is only one Bitcoin. This all happened while Polk was insisting that, unlike Hellmuth, he stepped away the moment he realized something shady was happening. The back and forth became one of the biggest poker Twitter explosions of the year, but perhaps the wildest story Polk covered in 2022 wasn't about crypto. It was about Martin Zamani and Bryn Kenny. When Zamani appeared on the Doug Polk podcast, he dropped accusations that shook the high-stakes world. He claimed that Kenny, poker's all-time live tournament money leader, was running a group of staked players who colluded online, used banned real-time assistance tools, ghosted accounts, and followed Kenny's bizarre lifestyle rules. Zamani described what sounded like a cult environment, players being pressured to eat vegan, getting scolded if they broke rules, and even being encouraged to visit a shaman for an extreme cleansing ritual. He recalled one player being reprimanded for sneaking Taco Bell. He also told a story about a ritual involving incense, frog poison, cuts in the skin, and something called Cambo. Polk had to pause and ask, "Into the cut?" Zamani confirmed it, but insisted he didn't let it happen to him. The accusations were explosive, bizarre, and lacking hard proof, but they hit the community like a bomb. And Polk, despite being threatened with legal action by Kenny's attorneys before the interview, went ahead with the episode anyway. All of this drama, controversy, chaos, and investigation reveals exactly why Doug Polk remains such a huge presence in poker. He's not just a former high-stakes crusher. He's not just a YouTuber. He's a lightning rod, someone who brings attention, stirs the pot, and breaks down complicated situations in a way people love watching. With more than 450,000 subscribers on his poker YouTube channel and hundreds of videos pulling huge views, Polk has built a second career out of commentary and content creation. And even though he keeps talking about retirement, it's clear he isn't going anywhere. Whether he's playing heads up, running upswing poker, co-owning the Lodge Card Club in Austin, or diving into the next big scandal, Doug Polk has cemented himself as a permanent fixture in the poker world.